Hi, Internet. Welcome back. We are Only Lovers Book Club. We are a super cool book club that reads a romance once a month. And we take turns picking the books and asking each other questions about it. This month, we read Night Shift. Choose your own, is it choose your, thanks, choose your own erotic fantasy.
A choose your own erotic fantasy.
Yeah, you can't say choose your own adventure, like it says on my shirt, because that's actually owned by someone else. So yes. Anyway, it's by adult film star and entrepreneur Joanna Angel. And it was my pick. So I'm going to be leading our discussion. But before we get into all of that, a couple of plugs. Make sure that if you just happen to just stumble upon into this sex shop, that you choose the path to subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening to this on podcast form, try to give us a subscribe, make sure to like, and if you're feeling super generous, leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us all over the internet, mostly on Instagram. You can find the links to our socials in the description box. You can support Drea by buying her book, Westwood Monster Patrol, with links to Amazon. Tashai has an awesome website with some creative writing and journaling and poetry, thinktashai.com. And I'm mostly on Instagram, but I have a zine you guys can check out. I'll put all links and all the stuff in the description below. Let's talk about our current read,
Night Shift. After graduating college, Taryn found herself lost and uncertain of what to do next. With a self-imposed, friendless, and sexless life, Taryn unexpectedly winds up working the graveyard shift at Dreams, a sex shop in Pasco County, Florida. Tucked into a seedy strip mall on the side of a highway, hilarious and erotic surprises lurk around every neon-lit corner. Your mission: in a sketchy and sexy world filled with tissues, gallons of lube, sex toys, tiger print, and swinger parties, help Taryn choose her way as she learns what happens in this small, unexpectedly kinky town. From butt plugs to cross-dressing truckers to being held up at gunpoint over dildos, experience this fun and sexy journey along with Taryn, as she goes from shy and sweet to skilled and empowered. But how she gets there is up to you. Joanna Angel is an award-winning adult film star, director, producer, author, entrepreneur, and CEO of the venerated adult studio Burning Angel Entertainment. A true Renaissance woman and inductee to AVN's Hall of Fame, she is ready to flaunt her sinfully delicious mind and take the literary world by storm.
Yeah, I read that. Okay, so I picked this because I think I saw it.
Me.
Sorry, what? Oh,
yes,
I
wanted to torture me.
Well, I mean, not on purpose, but it was a plus. I saw it on my Instagram feed. I got really curious about it because I've never read a choose your own kind of like erotic adventure. I know that we have read the choose your own romance. I forget what it's called, Your Lady's Choosing or something like that. I don't remember what it originally is.
The authors who wrote the Taylor Swift, Nancy Drew book.
And that was pretty cute and a little bit queer because you can pick the girl in the romance as well. I thought it would be interesting. And we hadn't read anything like sexy since the year started. And so here we are. So let's go around and give our general impressions. And then I've got some questions for you. I also asked the Instagram to if they had any questions as well, and I have a few, so we can go through those as well, because I feel like I just want to know like what path you took, where did this adventure take you, how many liquids were spilled. So yeah, I'll start with Tosh because I think you actually finished it before us.
Yeah. So I finished it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books ago.
Proud of you.
Thanks. I gave it 3 stars. I finished every adventure. I read it over and over to get through every like possible ending you could get to. I think there are like 4 total. If I'm not mistaken. It might just be 3. I feel like it's 4. But yeah, I went through the first one and then figured I'd go back just to see what ends up happening. It takes a lot more turns than I thought it would take. Like, the book doesn't feel big, but as I was going through it, I kept finding little sections that I hadn't read and kind of rediscovering different little plot points. I liked the idea of it. I liked that it had non heteronormative romances, and it was like not necessarily like cisgendered and not necessarily heterosexual romances. So there was, a little bit of variety in who the main character was kind of ending up with throughout the story and like who she was hooking up with. The writing is not great. I think that Joanna Angel, wrote something fun and quirky and like, something to kind of put out there and put something new and like interesting into the universe. And I think, as far as like erotic literature, this isn't, like doing harm, I think. As much as like it could be doing, because this is a pornographic fantasy. There's a lot in terms of like consent that I'm not necessarily super into, and some of the like decisions I'm not super into. So as far as like realistic portrayals, like that's not what this is. That's not what this is. It's not what's happening here. Like health is not a concern at all to anybody. This is just purely pornographic, like cotton candy universe stuff. I gave it 3 because I think the idea behind it is fun, and with like a better editing process and some more like maybe some help with the plots and character development, this could be a lot stronger. But just the fact that this kind of exists and feels like it's written for people to just like enjoy and learn a couple new things, like I didn't want to give it 2 stars just because like I understand, I think, what she's trying to do, and I appreciate it. And she is, she does have her own business, and I like respect that. But yeah, I think I probably would have done like 2 3/4 if I could fraction off my scores, but because it's on the higher end, I just gave it 3 stars.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
I can go next because I know that Drea read it last. So I agree with a lot of what you said. I also gave it 3 stars. I did not go through all of the adventures. I felt like it was too much. I was not curious to go through all of the adventures either. The ones I did go through, I thought were really interesting. Not really interesting. I was just kind of like, There's the one where I did 2. The cross-dressing truck driver path. I thought it was really surprising. Just the amount of oral sex they were having was nuts. And then I also did where she hooks up with the sex toy salesperson.
Yeah, who I kept imagining as Ruby Rose.
Yeah, and she's ghosts her. Like she doesn't end up with her. And I said, whoa, what the heck? I know that was because, I don't think that, well, I'm not sure. Like, is the assumption, what I like the idea that even if I had wanted to, that kind of was out of my hands, because sometimes relationships don't work that way. You want them to, and then they don't. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's kind of like on a video game when you want to romance a character, but you can't. They have their own preferences, and you're not it.
Story of my life.
Oh boy. Yeah, it kind of, now that you say that, I know you're talking about Dream Daddy, but I felt like, wouldn't this make
I was going to ask if it was the pigeon story.
All of them. The pigeon one, the Dream Daddy one, the one where it's like monsters at college. Like none of them ever hate me.
But it did seem like I could probably play this I could probably play the Steam game and enjoy it more than just kind of like reading it.
Yeah.
Because like a game, right? A game book. And And yeah, and then so in my adventure, if you guys read them all, then you know that she ends up with the author. She ends up with Joanna Angel. And then kind of starts her own career path. I thought that was cool. That being said, I agree with what you said. I felt like the writing was pretty like amateur hour. Like, you know, I think with some editing, it could have been really fun. It could have taken some really interesting turns. But I don't think that that was the point of this. I mean, if it was, then I missed it. I don't think that it was completely like harmless. There was some choice wording that I didn't think was cool. But overall, I enjoyed it. And I left it at that because I figured if I'm curious, I can pick it up later and go down a different avenue, which is right. It's kind of like, it has like a replayability. Mm-hmm. But for the time being, when I finished those two kind of like avenues, I was done. I was like, okay, I'm good. Next, you know, more stuff to read. So that's my kind of like overall impression. And that's why I gave it 3 stars. So the potential to get better or worse is there. What about you, Drea?
Well, I originally gave it 1 star, but then I felt bad about giving it a 1 star just because I wasn't like into it. I moved it up to 2 stars because I think I just don't like reading. If I'm going to read porn, it needs to be like story-based porn with like fleshed out like character development and plot. Like I hate just like porn like this. Will be it via video or story or like it's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think it could have been a different kind of writing or different characters, and I still would have wanted to give it a 1 just because it's not my thing. And I didn't think that was like 100% fair, so that's why I gave it 2, because I do still think that in terms of like straight up sex type porn, it still could have been better. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just didn't, it's not the kind of thing I enjoy. I went through a couple of the paths and I was pleasantly surprised, like Tashai said, that it wasn't just all like man, woman, traditional sex, or, well, I don't know. I started it and I was like, this is stupid with like the 5 girls and the orgy and the thing. Like, this is exactly what I expected this to be. And but then I did the Billy one next and I was like, okay, this is slightly better. That's his name, right? Billy the trucker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wasn't, there were too many liquids, not enough safe sex, not enough, like, I don't know, like, do people in real life really have this much sex? It just seems like too much.
No, it's definitely just fantasy, you know. It truly is. It's kind of like you read it and watch it because it is titillating and outlandish.
I never want to have this much sex, so maybe I don't know. It's just never this like. Anyway, 1 star, moved it to 2 stars. There was nothing that I really, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't read anything else by this author.
Gotcha.
But I'm glad that she's out there living her best life and making money off of all these different things.
Well, I think that she does. I looked her up at least on Instagram to hopefully get a safe search. And I did see that she does continue to write. She does continue to write erotica. She appears in an anthology series called Best Women's Erotica. And I think pre-pandemic, she was going to one of the stores or a store to read her story. I ended up following that page because there's some pretty cool authors on there. If you're interested, I can put the link to it. But yeah, Best Women's Erotica.
I don't know. Interested, but you can put the link for.
I meant for the audience. I meant for whoever's listening. I'm not talking to
maybe
you.
I'll check it out.
Exactly. I know who I'm talking to.
This didn't do as much for me as Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So if you're looking for something that's got a lot more heat to it, Andrea.
So yeah, I guess let's get it. Okay, so I feel like I already know all of the answers to this, but I want to kind of like look at the questions that I got. from this mysterious person on Instagram. Just kidding, it's just a bunch of our friends. One of the questions was, were there parts that made you LOL or laugh out loud? And were there parts that made you cringe?
So many.
No.
So many.
Made me want to puke.
Sorry, what was that?
I said no, but they all made me want to puke.
Do you mean the speakeasy part?
Just like all
Did
of
you
it.
read the speakeasy part?
No, I did not read the speakeasy part. What happened in the speakeasy?
Oh, wait, no. Is that the one where it's like the waitress gets under
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was disgusting.
And the cocktail? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they go to this bar and like it's like with Billy and it's like a secret room kind of thing. It has like a curtain and she goes under the table to give him a blowjob. And, you know, it's your typical like, oh, I'm getting sucked off while we're in a restaurant kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And the waitress comes in with their drinks and just gets under the table. Also they give him a blowjob together. Mm-hmm. And then when she's done, she gets back out, spits all of his cum into the cocktail, gives it to her, and then she's like, milky cum cocktail.
Oh, dear. No.
Yeah. But you want to know what upset me the most of that entire scene is I'm going, doesn't she work in like a strip mall town? Where's this bougie ass restaurant coming from that is $300 a table? Like, that's your
biggest upset?
That was my biggest upset. I'm like, this restaurant / bar does not exist in the same town that this sex shop exists in. It just doesn't. These don't exist in the same city. I'm sorry, they don't.
Let me see. There was one part that made me cringe. I think happened at the very beginning, and this was one of the issues that I have. So, I mean, I don't have an issue admitting yet I watch porn and I obviously read porn. Like I like erotic fiction. I like erotic media. And but you know, there's always that like really like squicky, oh, it's a fantasy. So like all of these things are totally accepted and a lot of them are they're just problematic. So right off the top when in the sex shop, the party of girls with the guy comes in. I don't remember their names.
It's the
but it was basically his entourage. And in kind of like describing the activities, because I went with she's going to be observing what's going on.
Yeah.
And the author in describing the girls uses like this big blonde girl and this ethnic girl,
the ethnically ambiguous girl.
Yeah, and I didn't like that because I think that obviously language is important, you know, and if you're gonna say like this black girl was getting fucked, then you can just say that, you know, like you're being explicit about everything else, like just, you know, be really explicit about who's in your book and just be really like be conscious about it. But then again, because like porn like so many times kind of like delves into these stereotypes, you know, for the funny aspect or for, you know, for like strange, not like diversity, but for the exoticness of it, you know, like, ooh, white girl with big black guy or like, ooh, Asian girls. And so I just was like, I didn't like that aspect of it. It's not the only time that I came across it, but I didn't enjoy it. I read ethnic and went, ethnic? Okay, who the fuck is you know, I was just it was weird. So that part made me cringe, and I don't remember, I laughed a lot at it, but then again I also felt like, am I supposed to be laughing at this? Like, is this a purposeful joke or am I laughing at it because it's so stupid? Yeah. But like I said, I mean I enjoyed parts of it. It was definitely like a sexy book. But, you know, it wasn't like a perfect book. And like we said before, with some editing, maybe even like some sort of like just a little bit of sensitivity reading even, I think it could have been even better. So yeah, I don't know if you guys laughed at anything like on purpose or by accident, but that was whatever.
I laughed at stuff in the same way where I was laughing at it. Like, who does this? Like, no one would do this. That was my reaction to a lot of this stuff. And also just like, okay, so the whole thing with the book is she's supposed to be like naively inexperienced working at this sex shop.
Mhm.
And then there's one path where she decides, because she's been masturbating so much for like a month, she's going to teach a like sex class to women in the store. And so she puts it on Facebook and puts post-ups. This is when she's trying to impress the fucking Ruby Rose ass chick. And she's like, I'm going to have an event, and then she's going to want to be with me because I love her. And all of that storyline I thought was ridiculous, because I'm like, fucking calm down. You talk to her, you hooked up, like, she's going to never talk to you again because you're being an obsessive, crazy person. But so she decides she's going to do this like sex class. And a bunch of these like experienced women show up, and like older women, and basically they're like, I love to masturbate. I'm just here to check out what this is for. Like, so there's only like one character who is on the inexperienced side of the spectrum. And it's either like, take this girl by herself to teach her some stuff, or like go all together. And in both instances, this girl character is like super shy, super quiet, very kind of anxious of what's going on. And then Taryn just like starts touching her and like putting her hand down her pants and grabbing her boobs and like kissing her. And I'm like, this girl's visibly uncomfortable as this scene is happening. And your instinct is, oh, she's nervous, I'm going to put my tits in her mouth. Or she's nervous, I'm going to put my hand down her pants, and I'm going to teach her she needs to celebrate her body. And like, I'm going to teach her to just like love herself, blah, blah, blah. And both scenarios
end. I didn't read that one.
But, you didn't get that one.
No.
And then both scenarios end in the girl just like orgasming crazily, and everyone's just like covered in cum and like so happy. But I'm reading it and I'm like, in what world would a really uncomfortable, nervous woman be okay with a stranger who's supposed to be teaching a class on like how to be more comfortable masturbating, like fucking just fuck her in front of strangers in this room?
In the porno world, that stuff is like super normal. You know what I mean? Like, the scenarios are ridiculous. I know that, I understand where you're going. I just was like, these are all little, like, I just imagine them all like little skits, like little porn skits.
I just kept trying to figure out like who the audience of this book was meant to be. And
I think it was the author.
Like, she just wrote something she wanted to read. Because
I kept trying to imagine like is she writing this for like girls who like porn, or men who like to read porn that's from the point of view of because it didn't seem, I know the main character is a girl, but I don't know.
Well, I don't think I would be very surprised if the target audience would be men. Like, I definitely, I mean, some men might enjoy it. Maybe it's just my bias, but I can't picture a guy picking this up. I don't know.
But I can't picture a girl either. I felt like all the descriptions of the girls, like they were just like tools, like sex objects. Like even the main character is just like,
it's very male gaze-y writing.
Yeah, I think it is.
It feels very male gazy, and that's what confused me, because even though the main character is a girl, it just I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that Taryn is a woman, and I think that the audience for this is women, but just because it is for women doesn't mean that the author doesn't have male gaze when she's like writing. And again, it's kind of like, I just imagine them like little scenes like in a porno movie, you know? If this was like what is it, the Bandersnatch, like the Netflix one where you had to like pick a scenario, you know, where to go. Yeah, I definitely think that because porn is so like for men, you know, all of these things, all of these scenarios were definitely very male gazy. But kind of like following that, do you guys think that this book was like meant to be educational? Because Taryn is supposed to be super naive. Do you think that like there was also kind of like the intention of like, here, let me teach you what this could be?
Well, if that was the case, then she's teaching all the wrong things.
I was about to say, if that's the case, then this becomes like a very dangerous book for people who don't have experience having sex because
I never thought I would say this, but I think that the Alice in Wonderland book was more like positively educational than this book.
No, absolutely not.
What? No, everybody asked for everybody asked before they did things in the Alice in Wonderland book. Like they still didn't use protection, but they at least like asked for consent. People weren't just like, "Oh, hey, let me interrupt your private sex act and just join in without even asking and shove you out of the way because that's how we do things in this
in this world." No, I hopefully don't ever see anyone depending on this book to learn anything, because it also just feels like just even biology.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe not educational, like how, I don't think I meant educational, like how to have sex or how to consent. I think more like how to, or like broaching subjects with like maybe yourself or a partner, kind of like, hey, like, would you be interested in like dressing, in a different way or using toys?
I don't think they even do that though.
No, okay, I don't think that they do that in the book. What I mean is like like let's say, I don't know. Do you know how like in some cases people will read a book and then be like, well, maybe I should start baking, So maybe in this case it's like, well, maybe I should try butt plugs,
I will say that might be a thing that happens because I did Google electricity play after I read this. I got to one scene where they were talking about like, oh, in the sex store and the Ruby Rose lady is like looking at a thing. She's like, this thing, it's for electricity. And I was like, what? And then I went online and like found examples of like current and electricity play and stuff. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know this was a thing. Oh, I wonder how this works. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, and then I went on a spiral for like half an hour.
I guess that's what I mean. Someone would kind of like find out something that they didn't really know anything about, get curious about it, and maybe experiment.
Well, yeah, I think like in the best case scenario, it would be like what Tosh just described, where they would see something and then Google it for themselves. I would just worry that they would take at face value whatever example was being given in the book as like, this is how this is how this is, or this is how this should be approached, because I think all the examples in this book are terrible. But if you are just reading it and saying, oh, hey, let me do my own research of this thing that I saw in the book, then yes, I could see it as like finding out a kink or something that you didn't know about.
Yeah. And I think also, even though I don't know, I think that Joanna Angels is very nice to her characters. At no point did I feel like she was, even though they kind of are caricatures at one point, I didn't think that she was making fun of them, especially Billy. I was reading through and I
liked his story the most.
I was reading through and I was worried, that I would encounter something just like just terrible. I liked how cool Taryn was about his interests, and I liked how she kind of like wanted to participate and to help him at first, just kind of like as someone who's like trying to figure out their job at the sex shop, but then as kind of like his partner, and kind of wanting to please him and to help him kind of like discover this side of him. I thought that was really sweet, and I was worried, but for not. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I thought it was sweet, other than thinking that they were all going to get STDs. And like, no, why would you buy a sex shop with a partner that you've only had for like 3 days? This is going to end terribly. Now he's going to be your boss, but you're dating him. Like,
I know. I was like, what if it doesn't work out? I was like, Billy, save your money.
I mean, but this is a universe where everyone comes every time. So obviously the business isn't going to fail because this is a fantasy.
Exactly. There you go.
What was I going to say? I also was just totally put off with how she ran the store, because she was just constantly putting stuff on and using stuff. I'm like, you're a terrible employee. You're lucky the woman running this shop is like a Burning Man lady who's probably like just hippie lifestyle and I'm just like not stressing. And she was always drinking that weird ass Kool-Aid moonshine stuff.
Punch Cheetos.
Her punch and Cheetos.
The owner of the shop seemed just.
Did anyone else like think that like Cheetos was such like an odd snack to put out? Like they're gonna get their Cheeto finger stains all over like the lingerie and like
there was a lot of
pretzels would have been a much better option. I
think pretzels would have been much smarter.
Yes, pretzels would be a better option. However, I did see online, funnily enough, I think it was with the account or one of the accounts that I saw this book appear in originally. It's called a chip sleeve, and it's so that you don't get chip crumbs on your fingers. It's like a little silicone. Let me look it up.
Isn't it like little finger condoms?
Yes.
Yeah, there's I've seen little finger condoms. But no, the concern isn't about your fingers. The concern is like, I'm gonna eat these Cheetos and then I'm gonna grab this onesie and suddenly there's Cheeto dust all over this onesie, but because this store is ran like garbage, I'm gonna put it back and I'm not gonna buy this onesie.
Yeah, like the guy who would come and pick up that DVD like every time, like I'm sure he got
Check
Cheetos.
it out. It's from the Reading Glasses podcast. It's called Chip Fingers. And it's like a little
Well, what about your knuckles? You know when you into the bag and then like
look, the dust is the best
here.
Part,
perfect for snacking, chips, popcorn, nuts, pizza, and much more. And it's like a little sleeve for your fingers. So who knows? I don't think that you should share your finger sleeves either, but
that's probably
it just reminded me of that.
Given our current climate, that's probably a smart device so that you're not licking snack dust off your fingertips. But that's my favorite part. So anyway.
Yeah. So let's see. Another question is, so we talked about kind of like what scenes made us cringe. Did you guys have, sorry, let me talk to Tashai. Tashai, did you have a scene that you found was like the hottest, if any? Was there like a really hot scene?
I can't remember.
I only like the scene from the two that I read where, when the sex toy saleswoman meets her at the hotel.
That was a fun read. That was kind of hot.
That was fun. I thought that was cool, and I felt for Taryn. I think, right, because it's like her first experience with a girl, if I'm not mistaken, because Taryn is like is bisexual or pansexual. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. It was like her first experience. It was really positive, but it was so good that it hurt like so much.
She goes fucking crazy. She goes crazy. She has sex with this lady, and then she becomes obsessed with her, and it's like, I love her. I'm gonna marry her, and I'm like, do you not understand what kind of like a girl she is? Because she's a player. Just because she has a vagina doesn't mean that she's like not a player. I don't understand what's happening. And then she just keeps texting her over and over and over again. And she's like, I'm just going to text her one more time. I'm just going to text her one more time. And I'm like, I hope she never talks to you again. I hope you never hear from her. I hope you never hear from her again. And then at some point she texted her back one more time. And I was like, when characters are like that, when they get just like desesperado, it drives me fucking crazy. And I'm like, I hope you get your heart broken because you're being an idiot.
I didn't like it that she got her heart broken, but I understood.
I laughed. I was like, bueno que te pase. You're a fucking idiot.
Taj, you're so cruel.
I am. I'm like, you're a dumbass. This is happening to you for a reason. How are you like allowed to drive? Like, I don't.
Well, I think she was meant to be like, because
stupid.
I don't know. I don't know if stupid is the right word. Because we're supposed to be able to, naive. We're supposed to be able to take her through like any avenue. She's not, she doesn't have the most distinctive like personality.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't think she was naive because she definitely, I don't think she's necessarily surprised by the things that occur. I think she's just one of those like yes people. It's like, oh, you want to jump off a cliff? Okay. You want to do a ton of drugs? Okay. You want to go have an orgy? Okay. Like,
but out of those three,
I feel like she came from a broken home.
And the two that ton of drugs and jump off a cliff.
I feel like you would have said yes, though.
Which one would you
call
pick
it
if you were presented with those three options?
You
can pick
call it-
only.
Well, I would clearly pick the orgy, but use like protection.
You call it naive, I call it stupid.
Got it. I mean, that's fine. So let's see.
I'm trying to remember how many endings it has.
I couldn't calculate. I didn't feel like calculating. I was too lazy for it. Will you open a sex store? Would you consider opening a sex store? And
yes.
Yes.
With you guys, yes.
Yes, I think that we should. If anyone's listening out there, interested in doing some collaboration, only lovers
of the financial kind. That's what she means, because we don't have money.
Yeah.
Investors? Any investors out there? You're looking to branch out?
Investors, sugar daddies, sugar mamas, whatever you want to call them.
Well, okay. When we're no longer online, Ivan and I were talking about designing something that we thought could be like funny, but also like cute and empowering. So I'll let you guys know about it afterwards because I don't want the internet to steal the idea. But
got it. And I guess one of our not our last question, but one of the questions that I have here from an anonymous source is, I guess this question is mostly for you, Andrea. What is the appropriate amount of liquids for a sex scene? And I know that I think that message was sent as a joke, but I think I want to know, because liquids are essential to sex. Like, is it that you just don't want to hear about them at all? Or is it like a ratio? Like, what is your ideal liquid situation?
I just feel like whenever we read these books, and
exactly, it comes up every time. I feel like we should talk about it.
I feel like by these books, I specifically mean any book that you have picked that is classified as like erotic. I feel like, I don't know, maybe other people out there just find this sexy and that's why it is, but I feel like they make a point to describe just how much like gushing is like happening from like both parties. Like, I assume if I'm reading about two people having sex that they are appropriately lubricated, because that is a necessity to have.
Yeah.
But in these scenes, it seems like it's not just like, oh, cool, everybody's like lubricated. It's like the waterfall of wetness was like soaking her legs till she felt like she was standing in a jacuzzi of her own cum. You know what I mean? It's just like an extreme that I just cannot understand, and I don't I don't know why it's a thing. It's not one book specific. I keep seeing it.
Yeah, I think it's a characteristic of erotic fiction, and I don't know. I don't have a problem with it, but I also am kind of baffled by the appeal as well. Let's put it that way. Like, it doesn't bother me, but I get what you're saying. Let's say liquids should be an assumption in an ideal Andrea sex scene.
Well, I just feel like, one, I don't understand what's like sexy about describing them to that degree, but two, I just feel like if you were actually having sex in real life and your bed turned into a water bed because the person was gushing so much all over you, you wouldn't actually be into it. Like,
I'd be like, did you just pee? If you did, it's okay, but we should change the sheets before it sets in. To reiterate, if you are going to read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, there's an appropriate amount of moisture in that book.
Good, I'm glad.
I think, because there's a couple of like really sexy scenes, and the way it was described is a lot more palatable in my opinion, because there's ways of writing that like a girl is wet without it having to be like, it was dripping down her leg and soaked into her socks.
Yeah. And I just finished reading today In the Dream House by Carmen Machado, which was really, really sad, but is about, a lesbian relationship in which they have a lot of sex, and it's a memoir. She describes things like in detail and like very realistically. And I thought there was a very appropriate amount of liquid. So this is clearly just like a fiction problem. I feel like when people are talking about their own real sexual experiences, there is not this like abundance of liquids everywhere.
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's supposed to be like, I mean, even though we're reading it, but it's kind of like a signifier of like, whoa, this is being like, this is physically like a tangible representation of just how much like out of control pleasure this person is feeling. You know, it's not enough that they're like vocalizing it, but their body is creating like this. Like, there's no denying it. It's just so much. Da, 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 you know, that's at least that's how I see it, and that's why I just kind of see for what it is.
It's just so strange. And also, like, you know, when you're like playing a sport and you're just like sweating buckets, and then you need to like chug 2 bottles of water because you're so dehydrated. These people never drink water. They're just like all over the place, and it doesn't affect them at all.
That's why she passes out when she finishes having sex with the lesbian in the hotel room because she's dehydrated.
That's how she hallucinates their whole relationship.
Yeah, exactly. She's actually just waking up 2 days later because housekeeping comes in to clean the hotel. And they're like, ma'am, are you okay? And she's like,
Anyway, I think that's what it is more than anything. It's just kind of like, you know, signifier. Yes, these people are having fun. How much fun? This much fun. Gallons and gallons, and it's a waterbed now.
The way you're explaining it does kind of make sense because men obviously have like giant erections that you can see, but women, it's like her nipples got hard.
Yeah.
And a water hose shot out of her kuka.
One question I have here. Do you consider smut a respectable genre? Have you ever read good smut?
Clan of the Cave Bear.
But I don't know. Do you
where do you draw the line though? Because like,
well, like kind of like in romance, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about a romance book, the relationship is the plot, right? So in erotica, sex is the plot. This act of the sex and the hooking up and the final release is the point. So
I think the only ones I've read have been the ones that you've picked for book club, and I think I have given them all 1 star.
Very low rating. Yeah, it's hard to find because there's so much. There's an abundance of it. I think it's easy to write. That being said,
I asked because I feel like we've read romances where there are a lot of sex scenes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was like, where does it cross over?
Well, I think it's because the sex
less plot.
Definitely less plot, and the sex is like an extension of the love that's felt in the book. Like, for example, what the heck is the book called that we read? It the one of the last Wallflower books, Scandal in Spring. There was a couple of explicit sex scenes in that, but some people will call that smut. But I don't think that is considered smut because it's definitely romance first, sex later, and I think smut is sex first and always. So one of my favorite smut books to read are actually graphic novels. So whenever Smut Peddler comes out with a volume, I have a couple here. I only have one here because the other one's. So this one's Sex Machine, and this is like graphic novel sexy times, and it's got just. This one is with robots, so it's my favorite, and I think there's one coming out later that is called Silver, and then so the protagonists in the stories are all older. They're like, you know, of the golden age, and so
you loaned me like a monster one, right?
Yeah, my monster boyfriend.
Boyfriend. That was like fun. I liked that. That was like a fun read.
Yeah. So I think yes. I think that yes, it is a respectable genre. I think that anything that explores like sexuality and like helps people explore sexuality is cool, but that there is just so much of it and so much that is bad that it overlooks like something that can be actually really good, like the Smut Peddler series. And who knows? I feel like that's why I followed Best Women's Erotica because, you know, who knows if Joanna Angel has gotten better. This was like her first foray into writing. Maybe she's gotten a little better. I'm going to check it out. I'll report back. But if we haven't read it in book club, it's because, I mean, we only have, a small selection of books that are that. But there's definitely more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think yes, but I don't think that what we've read for book club is representative of all the smut that's out there. I definitely think that we pick some clunkers. It happens. But I think that it is pretty respectable and that it's worth exploring, at least worth in like finding something that's good. If you want to start with this Joanna Angel's Night Shift, then get ready for the liquids. But I mean, you could also do worse. You could also be taken by the T-Rex, which is just another.
Or 50 Shades of Alice in Wonderland.
50 Shades of Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, those are, I think, and then Captive Desire is also bordering the line of like, is this a sci-fi? Because love is really important there too. But definitely the amount, I would say also the amount of liquids puts it firmly in erotica.
Yeah. I think my favorite is romantic erotica or erotic romance, which is, and like Wallflower books, it is romance, but there's like the erotica in it is good. Like I think if you put as much effort in your erotica content in the book as you do in your romantic plot development, like you're like, okay, cool, I'll read that. Sign me up. That's a good book for me. Like even these like, I keep saying Chloe Brown because it's the most recent one. That's a romance book, but it's got some like hot sex scenes in it. So that to me is like an erotic romance. So there are some people I would recommend it to, and there are some people that I would not recommend it to. Whereas with romance novels that have less of that tone to it, it's more like, esto más inocente. This is like, oh, people are in love. It's like a Lifetime movie. Like, it's a happy ending.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Instagram follower. And then I have one here. Is there a diversity of characters having sex, or is it just hetero? There's a diversity of people having sex for sure.
Lots of ladies.
Lots of ladies. Well, I mean, granted, with what Andrea says also being the case, which is being ladies, but also very male gazy lady on lady action. But there is that, and there's also the fact that, I mean, even though like Billy is a man and Taryn is a woman, they have kind of like this kind of kink going on, kind of like this gender bend kink that I think is pretty interesting to explore. So I don't know. I don't think it was like the worst. I thought definitely at the bottom of the barrel. It could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. And I'll probably just kind of flip through it if I'm bored. If it's here and my pages aren't too waterlogged.
Para que vea cómo termina, because there's 4, I think, total endings. Let's see what dumb thing she does.
If you're looking for like the fast track to feeling, I mean, I read somewhere that like people who read erotica are, you know, it helps you with your empathy or something like that. I don't know. I read that somewhere.
That seems like bullshit.
I don't know. I read it somewhere. It could be bullshit. It could be not. I wouldn't discard it though.
Did you feel more empathetic when you were reading this book?
No, I think maybe the point was that
you consider other people's pleasure and
feelings. Yeah, something like that. So
one more.
Who knows? I don't know. It gave me a lot to think about. I enjoyed the questions that we had. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up?
I do think it was funny that she like broke the fourth wall and turned herself into a character who was kind of a bitch at some point.
I liked it. I liked that
like,
part.
She wasn't super great, and then she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Blah, 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 blah. And then they hook up, and I thought that was really funny. I'm like, I want to write myself into a story as an asshole, but then not actually an asshole.
Yeah, I kept wondering. That's one of the parts where I kept wondering, am I supposed to laugh at this? Is she really like this? Is she poking fun at herself?
Yeah. She's just like, ha ha, slap, 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 ha ha, blah, blah, doing all this shit. And I'm like, are you like this? Or is this you writing how you think people think you are because you star in porn and you direct and produce and write?
Yeah, I don't want to think too hard about it because that was definitely fun. I said, "Oh shit!" It was a genuine surprise. I said, "Oh shit!" She wrote herself into the book.
Yeah,
it was both funny, but also slightly kind of like, well, I mean, if you were trying to pretend that it wasn't kind of like a gimmicky cash grab idea, then like that's out the window. Like I definitely believe that was the case.
Yeah. And I think if I'm not mistaken, when she describes herself in the book, she doesn't describe herself as hot. Like she describes herself. I can't remember where it is, but it's one of those things where Taryn is like, she wasn't like incredibly attractive, but she had this aura about her where she just knew what she was doing and she knew people were here to see her and like to fuck her, and that made her really hot.
And she exuded that that sexy aura.
She's just like, I'm here for this, yay.
Well, anyway, but it's over now. Now back to regular programming. I thought it was pretty cool. I would recommend this to someone who would be interested in, I don't know, reading something different. I think that despite its flaws, it's not bad. Just borrow it from a friend if you're not if you're not too sure. That there's no reason why you wouldn't enjoy it. If this is the kind of thing you like, if you seek out erotic fiction, then this is something that you're definitely gonna enjoy. So yeah, that was it. That was Night Shift by Joanna Angel. The next book that we're going to be reading. So after we have finished Q2, Q2 has now come to a close. We've all chosen a book. And so now we're moving into Q3. I posted the books that we're going to be reading on Instagram. You can check it out at Only Lovers Book Club on Instagram to see which ones they are. But I've got the next one here. And it's Tasha's pick. Island Affair by Priscilla Oliveras. Keys to Love. How cute. I freaking love this cover, man. It's so cute and tropical.
I'm going to have to like remember what that book was about.
That's okay. When I read it, then I will remind you. So I like these cute ass little hummingbirds, man. It says, first in a new series, there's no faking desire like this. And in the back it says, sought after social media influencer Sarah Vance, in recovery from an eating disorder, is coming into her own with a potential career expansion on the horizon. Despite the good news, her successful siblings and their perfect spouses have a way of making her feel like the odd one out. So when her unreliable boyfriend is a no-show for a Florida family vacation, I would kill someone if they. Sarah recruits Luis Navarro, a firefighter paramedic and dive captain, willing to play the part of her smitten fiance. Luis's big Cuban familia has been in Key West for generations, and his quiet strength feeds off the island's laid-back style. Though guarded after a deep betrayal, he'll always help someone in need, especially a spunky beauty with a surprising knowledge of Spanish curse words. Soon, he and Sarah have memorized their How We Met story and are immersed in family dinners, bike tours, private snorkeling trips, sharing secrets and slow-melting kisses. But when it's time for Sarah to return home, will their fake relationship fade like the stunning sunset or blossom into something beautiful? Y'all, I mean, I'm excited. So,
did you read it?
No, I'm excited to read it. I know that you've read it and we're like, but I'm like really pumped to read it. I think it sounds sweet.
I want to see what you think about it. I have like very specific, now that as you went through the description, I'm remembering the stuff that I just had problems with. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was fun. It was like a sweet read.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting it to be a sweet read. And Priscilla Oliveras,
I will say,
Latinx author. So I'm interested. Spanish curse words. Let's see what you got.
Will say
handle my Puerto Rican curse words.
I will say that the guy character, I liked him a lot more than the main girl character. So tell me, keep that in mind as you're reading the story, like which protagonist you kind of like more, because usually they try to keep them on like an even playing field, and I definitely liked him a lot more than I liked her.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sometimes when that happens, I have to be like, is this internalized misogyny or like, is this written bad? Okay. So yeah, that's what we're going to be reading next month. So we will get together, I think the last Sunday in July, and then I will put the episode out on YouTube that week, Monday or Tuesday. But no later than that. So yeah, cool. If you have made it this far, don't forget to subscribe either here on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts, preferably Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling really generous, leave us a review. You can find our tip jar on our links, as well as our socials, our books, our websites, our zines. And I hope that you, at some point, find a junction where you can choose to like have buckets of like amazing, sexy, liquidy sex, or choose a path of like normal, you know, realistic, kind of like super mom and pop sex, and that you're happy with whatever you choose. I'll see you. We'll see you next month.